My son told me I didn't understand modern life on a Tuesday. The words came out of his mouth like he'd been rehearsing them, polished and sharp, designed to cut. We were standing in my kitchen, the one I'd renovated 3 years ago when his mother decided the old cabinets made her feel claustrophobic. He had that look on his face, the one young people wear when they think they've figured out something their parents never will. "Dad, you just don't get it anymore," Trevor said, leaning against the counter with his phone in his hand, always in his hand. "The world's changed. The way things work now, it's all digital, it's all connected. You're still thinking like it's 1995. I was 53 years old. I'd spent 30 years managing logistics for a mid-sized distribution company, coordinating shipments across 6 states, dealing with customs paperwork that would make a tax attorney weep, and somehow keeping 300 employees paid on time through 2 recessions and a corporate restructuring. But sure, I didn't understand how things worked. "Is that right?" I said, wiping down the counter. My wife Linda was at her book club, which meant I was doing the dishes from the lunch Trevor had invited himself over for. "Yeah, Dad. Look, we appreciate everything you've done, but Kelsey and I have been talking." He gestured vaguely with his phone, like it contained all the wisdom of the universe. "We think it's time we handle our own stuff. Be more independent." Kelsey was my daughter, 2 years younger than Trevor, working at some startup that seemed to change its business model every 6 months. Last I heard, they were doing something with blockchain and sustainable fashion, which sounded like someone threw buzzwords into a hat and pulled out 2. "Independent," I repeated. "That's good. You're both adults." "Exactly." Trevor straightened up, relieved I wasn't arguing. "So we don't need you managing everything anymore. The bills, the paperwork, all that stuff. We've got it handled." I set down the dish towel and looked at him properly. He was wearing a jacket that probably cost more than my first car, the kind with visible stitching that somehow made it more expensive. His hair was styled in that deliberately messy way that required half an hour and $70 of product. My son, the marketing consultant, who billed companies $200 an hour to tell them their logos, should be more authentic. "All that stuff," I said. "You mean the co-signer paperwork on your apartment lease? The guarantor forms for Kelsey's car loan? The permit applications for your wedding venue?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable for about half a second. "We can handle it, Dad. Seriously. You've been doing too much. It's time you and Mom focused on yourselves." There it was. The kindness wrapped around the dismissal, like a silk scarf around a brick. They'd practiced this. I could see it in the way he held his shoulders, the way his eyes flickered to the door like he was timing his exit. "If that's what you want," I said. "It is." He smiled, the relief obvious. "Thanks for understanding, Dad. You're the best." He left 10 minutes later, after hugging me in that backslapping way that men do when they're feeling magnanimous. I stood in my kitchen and looked at the stack of folders on my desk in the corner. Mortgage assistance paperwork for Trevor's condo, insurance claim forms for Kelsey's fender bender, tax documents for both of them, because apparently nobody under 35 understood that receipts mattered, the permit application for the wedding venue, which required 3 separate government signatures and a fire marshal inspection, the loan modification papers for Kelsey's car after she'd missed 2 payments. I picked up my phone and called Linda. "How was lunch?" she asked. "Educational," I said. "Trevor says they don't need my help anymore." There was a pause. Linda had a way of hearing everything I didn't say. "Both of them?" That was the implication. They want to be independent. "Independent," she repeated, and I could hear her smiling. Not a happy smile. The other kind. "Do they know the venue permit expires in 2 weeks?" "I don't think they know what a venue permit is. This should be interesting." I looked at the folders again. 30 years of logistics experience told me exactly how this would play out. But 30 years of being a father made me hesitate. "We could warn them," Linda said, reading my mind across the phone line. "We could. But we're not going to." They want to be independent, I said. Who am I to stand in the way? That was Tuesday. By Friday, I'd received 3 phone calls from Trevor and 4 from Kelsey, none of which I answered. I was at work, coordinating a nightmare shipment of industrial refrigeration units that had somehow ended up on a boat to Singapore instead of Sacramento. Real logistics, the kind that involved actual consequences and actual money. Not the fake-it-till-you-make-it digital vapor that my kids seemed to think was the future of everything. My phone buzzed again. Kelsey. I declined the call and went back to arguing with a customs broker who insisted that refrigerators were somehow agricultural equipment. By the time I got home that evening, there were 17 missed calls and a text message from Trevor that just said, "Call me." I made dinner instead. Linda and I ate salmon and roasted vegetables while we watched the news. My phone sat on the counter, buzzing like an angry wasp every few minutes. "You're enjoying this," Linda said. "I'm eating dinner." "You're enjoying this," she repeated, and she was right. The thing about being underestimated is that people forget you can hear them. I'd spent the last 2 years listening to my children talk about me like I was a relic, a dinosaur who couldn't possibly understand their sophisticated modern lives. Never mind that I'd built a career on understanding systems more complex than their social media algorithms. Never mind that I'd spent countless hours untangling their messes while they complained about how stressed they were. Trevor had told his fiancée that I was kind of clueless, but he means well. I'd heard him say it at Thanksgiving, thinking I was in the garage. Kelsey had posted something on her Instagram about boomers who don't get it, complete with a photo of a confused old man staring at a computer. She'd deleted it after 2 hours, but screenshots were forever, and her cousin had made sure I saw it. So yes, I was enjoying this. A little. Saturday morning, they both showed up at my house. Together, which meant they'd coordinated. They'd discussed strategy. That should have been my first warning. Trevor's fiancée Natalie was with him, a blonde woman with perfect teeth and opinions about everything. Kelsey's boyfriend Marcus trailed behind her, looking uncomfortable. He was the only one who'd ever thanked me for anything, which meant he probably knew more than the others about what I actually did. They arranged themselves in my living room like a delegation. Trevor and Natalie on the couch, Kelsey and Marcus in the chairs. They'd left the love seat for me and Linda. We sat down and I waited. "Dad," Trevor started, "we have a situation." "Do you?" "The venue permit for the wedding, it expired. They're saying we can't use the space now unless we reapply, and that takes 6 weeks. The wedding's in 4. I nodded slowly. "That's unfortunate." "We need your help," Kelsey added. "There's something wrong with my car loan, too. They're saying I missed the modification deadline and now the payment's going back up." "Also unfortunate." Trevor leaned forward. "Dad, come on. We know you're upset about what I said, but this is serious. We need you to fix this." I let the silence stretch out. Linda was very still beside me, which meant she was paying attention to everything. "Fix it how?" I asked finally. "Call the venue people. Do whatever you do. You know how to handle this stuff." Trevor's voice had an edge now, frustration creeping in. "That's why we always had you take care of it." I thought I didn't understand modern life. Natalie made a small noise. Trevor shot her a look. "That's not what I meant," he said. "I just meant that maybe we should be handling more things ourselves, but this is an emergency." "Is it?" "Dad." Kelsey's voice was tight. "Please. The car payment goes up $400 a month if we don't fix this. I can't afford that." I looked at her. My daughter, wearing designer jeans and carrying a purse that cost more than the increased car payment. My daughter, who'd told her mother last month that I was stuck in the past and couldn't relate to how hard things were for young people now. "Why did the modification deadline pass?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "The deadline. Why did it pass? Did you forget to submit the paperwork?" I don't know. I thought it was automatic." Loan modifications aren't automatic. You had to sign forms, fill out financial disclosure statements, provide 3 months of pay stubs. I didn't know that. I did. That's why I was handling it. Trevor stood up. Okay, we get it. We screwed up. We should have listened to you. Can you please just help us fix this now? No, I said. The word dropped into the room like a stone into still water. Everyone stared at me. What? Trevor said. No, you wanted to be independent. Be independent. Natalie made a choking sound. Are you serious right now? It's our wedding. Then I suggest you figure out how to handle it. You told me I didn't understand modern life. Surely modern life has solutions I'm too old to comprehend. I stood up. Linda rose with me, smooth as a dance partner. We'd been married 31 years. We'd developed a rhythm. We're going out for lunch, I said. Feel free to show yourselves out. We left them sitting there, stunned into silence. As we pulled out of the driveway, I could see them through the window, all four of them talking rapidly, gesturing, planning their next move. Let them plan. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The restaurant was quiet, the kind of place that served decent food without trying to turn it into an experience. Linda ordered the chicken salad. I got a burger. We didn't talk about the kids until after the food arrived. That was cruel, Linda said, but she was smiling. That was necessary. They're going to panic. They already are panicking. I took a bite of the burger. It was good, cooked right, no pretension. The question is how long before they realize why. Linda set down her fork. You know what they don't understand? What you did wasn't just filling out forms. It was knowing which forms, knowing when they were due, knowing who to call when something went wrong. It was maintaining relationships with clerks and loan officers and permit departments. It was checking deadlines and following up and catching problems before they became disasters. It was 30 years of experience, I said. But apparently that's all obsolete now because everything's digital. When does the HOA fine hit Trevor's account? I checked my watch. Should have posted this morning. $300 for the unauthorized satellite dish his neighbor reported. The one you would have gotten waived. The one I told him about 6 weeks ago that needed a variance permit, but he was too busy explaining cryptocurrency to me to listen. Linda laughed, sharp and brief. This is going to get worse before it gets better. She was right. She was always right about these things. My phone rang while we were finishing lunch. Trevor again. I let it go to voicemail, then Kelsey, then a number I didn't recognize, which was probably one of their partners calling on their behalf. I declined them all. You're really not going to answer, Linda said. They wanted independence. I'm giving them space to be independent. You're a terrible person. I raised 2 adults who think their father is an idiot. I'm a fantastic person. I just didn't do a very good job teaching them gratitude. We paid the check and drove home the long way, through the old downtown area that had been gentrified into breweries and overpriced vintage shops, the kind of place Trevor would call vibrant and authentic while paying $12 for a beer. When we got home, there was a car in the driveway, not Trevor's or Kelsey's, a silver sedan with a rental company sticker. Expecting someone? Linda asked. No. We parked on the street and walked up cautiously. The front door opened before we got there. A man stepped out, mid-40s, wearing business casual and an apologetic expression. Mr. Hartwell, I'm Jason Kimball. I'm the event coordinator for the Riverside Pavilion. The wedding venue. I kept my face neutral. What can I do for you, Mr. Kimball? I was hoping we could talk about the permit situation. Your son said you handled the original application? I did. The thing is, we have a bit of a complication. The city permit office is saying the application was never properly transferred when ownership of the pavilion changed hands last year. So it's not just expired, it's technically invalid. Linda made a small sound beside me. I could feel her attention, sharp as broken glass. That sounds complicated, I said. It is. Normally this would take months to sort out. But your son mentioned you have experience with permit applications, and I was hoping you might know a way to expedite things. The wedding's in 4 weeks. We really don't want to cancel. There it was. The assumption that I would fix it. That I would drop everything and untangle the mess because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm retired from helping with that kind of thing." Jason Kimball's smile faltered. "Retired?" "As of last week. My children decided they wanted to handle their own affairs. I'm respecting that decision." "But the wedding is their problem to solve. I'm sure they'll figure something out. They're very intelligent, very modern, much more capable than I am, according to them." I walked past him to the front door. Linda followed. Jason Kimball stood there on the porch, looking confused and slightly desperate. "Mr. Hartwell, I'm not sure you understand. If this doesn't get resolved, we'll have to cancel the booking. They'll lose their deposit." "How much is the deposit?" I asked, even though I knew. $8,000. I nodded. "That's a shame. Good luck, Mr. Kimball." I closed the door on his protests. Through the window, I watched him stand there for another 30 seconds before walking back to his car, phone already pressed to his ear. Calling Trevor, probably. Or his office. Or both. $8,000, Linda said softly. "Dean, that's money they'll lose because they didn't respect what I was doing for them. That's money they spent while telling me I didn't understand how the world worked." "You could fix this." "I could. But you won't." I turned to face her. My wife, who'd supported every decision I'd ever made, who'd raised our children with me, who'd watched them grow into people we barely recognized, people who looked at us like we were obstacles instead of resources. "If I fix this," I said, "they learn nothing. They go back to assuming I'm just the old man who fills out forms. They go back to dismissing me while depending on me. And next time there's a problem, they'll expect me to handle it again." "So you're teaching them a lesson." "I'm letting natural consequences do the teaching." Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded once, sharp. "Okay, we do this your way." "Our way," I corrected. "You've been listening to this disrespect as much as I have." "Yes," she said. "Yes, I have." That night, Trevor showed up alone. It was almost 10 o'clock, past the time he usually went to bed because he had to wake up early for his morning workout and his meditation app and his professionally crafted breakfast smoothie. He looked wrecked, hair uncombed, jacket missing. Just a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a tie pulled loose. He stood on the porch and pressed the doorbell 4 times in rapid succession. I opened the door. "It's late." "Dad, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about. The venue's going to cancel. Do you understand that? They're going to cancel our wedding because you won't make one phone call." "I'm not going to make the phone call because you told me you didn't need my help. You were very clear about it." "I was wrong, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I was wrong. You were right. Now please, please help me fix this." He looked desperate, and some small part of me, the father part that had spent 28 years trying to make his life easier, almost gave in. Almost. Then I remembered Thanksgiving. I remembered hearing him tell Natalie that I was clueless, but I meant well. I remembered the way he'd said it, not cruel exactly, but dismissive, like I was a golden retriever, loyal and simple and not quite bright. "No," I said. "Dad, Trevor, stop. You made a choice. You decided you didn't need me managing things for you. That's fine. That's your right. But you don't get to change your mind just because things got hard. You don't get to dismiss me and then demand I save you. This is different. This is my wedding. Then I suggest you figure out how to save it. You're a marketing consultant. You solve problems for companies all day long. Apply those skills to your own life." "It's not the same thing." "Why not?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Because I don't know how to do this stuff. You know how to do this stuff." "Yes," I said. "I do. Because I spent 30 years learning how. While you were growing up, while you were in college, while you were starting your career, I was maintaining relationships with city clerks and permit offices and every bureaucratic entity that makes modern life possible. I know who to call and what to say and how to navigate systems that would eat you alive. But apparently, I don't understand modern life. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Trevor's face twisted with frustration. I don't know. I was just trying to be independent. Natalie kept saying we relied on you too much, that we needed to grow up, that you were doing everything for us. I thought... He stopped. The silence filled with everything he wasn't saying. Natalie, I repeated. This was Natalie's idea. She thought I was making you look incompetent. She thought having your father handle your business made you seem weak. Trevor's face went red. That's exactly it. I could see it now, clear as glass. She wanted you to cut me out because it made her uncomfortable that you needed help. Because in her world, asking for help means you're not successful enough, not polished enough, not good enough. Dad, that's not fair. Isn't it? How many times has she made comments about me being old-fashioned? How many times has she rolled her eyes when I've tried to help with something? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Go home, Trevor. Figure out your permit situation. Figure out your wedding. Figure out what kind of man you want to be. The kind who listens to his father, or the kind who listens to someone who's embarrassed by his father. I closed the door before he could respond. Through the wood, I heard him standing there breathing hard. Then footsteps. Then his car starting up, engine roaring louder than necessary as he pulled away. Linda appeared in the hallway, wrapped in her bathrobe. I heard. Natalie, I said. I wondered when you'd figure that out. You knew? Dean, I've known since Christmas. She's been working on him for months. Little comments, little suggestions, undermining you while pretending to build him up. Why didn't you say something? Because he needed to figure it out himself, and because you needed to decide how you were going to handle being pushed out. She came closer, put her hand on my arm. Are you really going to let the wedding collapse? I'm going to let them try to save it first. If they can't, I shrugged, then they'll learn something about consequences. And if they can, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. I slept badly that night, not because of guilt, I was past guilt, but because logistics problems always kept me awake, and this was a logistics problem wrapped in family dysfunction. The permit issue wasn't actually that complicated. I knew the right person to call, a woman named Patricia in the city planning office who owed me a favor from 3 years ago when I'd helped her son get a last-minute permit for his food truck. One phone call, 20 minutes of conversation, and the whole thing would be resolved. But that wasn't the point anymore. The point was whether Trevor would grovel his way through the bureaucracy or whether Natalie would let him. Kelsey showed up the next morning with a stack of papers, not asking for help, just showing me what she'd done. I called the bank, she said, spreading the papers across my kitchen table. They said the loan modification deadline passed, but I could reapply, so I got all these forms. I looked at the papers. She'd downloaded the wrong forms. These were for a new loan application, not a modification of an existing one. But she'd tried. That mattered. These aren't quite right, I said gently. But you're close. Her face fell. Of course they're not. Kelsey, you've never done this before. Nobody gets it right the first time. You would have. Because I've done it 50 times. You can't compare your first attempt to my 50th. I pulled out a chair. Sit down. I'll show you which forms you actually need. We spent an hour going through the paperwork. I explained what each form was for, why the bank required certain information, how to present her financial situation in the most favorable light. She took notes, asked questions, actually paid attention. This is really complicated, she said. It is. That's why I was handling it. I never understood that. I thought you were just being controlling. I was being controlling, But I was being controlling because I knew you couldn't afford the consequences of mistakes. She was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you let it get so bad? The car payment, the insurance. You could have fixed those things without me knowing, like you did with Trevor's permit. Because you needed to feel the consequences. Trevor needed to understand what I did. You needed to understand what happens when I don't do it. That's harsh. Yes, it is. But was it wrong? She thought about it. No. I was treating you like you were my assistant or something. Like your job was to handle all the annoying parts of my life so I could focus on the fun parts. I needed to know what the annoying parts actually involved. And now you know. Now I know. She looked at the forms. Will you help me file these? I'll help you understand how to file them, but you're going to be the one who actually does it. You need to learn this. Okay. She took a breath. Okay. That's fair. We spent another hour going through the process step by step. I showed her how to organize the documents, how to verify everything was complete, how to follow up after submission. It was the kind of thing I'd been doing for years, but explaining it made me realize how much knowledge I'd accumulated without noticing. Dad? Kelsey said as she was leaving. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. You're my daughter. I don't give up on you. Even when I post stupid things on Instagram? Even then. Although I reserve the right to be hurt by them. She hugged me, fierce and quick. I'm going to do better. I promise. I believe you. After she left, Linda came into the kitchen. That looked productive. She's learning. Are you still angry? A little. But it's fading. Good. Anger's exhausting. She was right. I'd been angry for weeks, and it had drained me. Made everything harder, made every interaction tense. But watching Kelsey try to figure out the forms, watching her actually engage with the complexity of what I'd been doing, that had helped. Monday, I went back to work feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Frank noticed. Whatever was going on, he said, I take it you worked it out? Working on it, not quite there yet. That's all you can ask for. The week passed normally. Work was busy but manageable. Trevor called twice just to talk. Kelsey texted me photos of the completed loan modification forms before she submitted them. Small things, but they mattered. Friday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Dean Hartwell? A woman's voice, professional. Speaking. This is Monica Reeves. I'm Natalie's mother. I sat up straighter. Hello, Mrs. Reeves. I wanted to speak with you about Trevor and about what happened with the wedding. I'm listening. Natalie told me that Trevor was too dependent on you, that you were enabling him, preventing him from becoming independent, that she couldn't marry someone who couldn't function without his father. She told Trevor the same thing. Yes, well. Monica Reeves paused. I think my daughter is an idiot. That surprised me. I'm sorry? My daughter is an idiot, she repeated. She's 30 years old, and she's never had to handle anything difficult in her entire life. Her father and I made sure of that. We paid for everything, handled everything, smoothed every path, and now she's got this idea that asking for help is weakness. I see. Trevor is a good man. He's successful, kind, thoughtful, and yes, he relied on you for certain things. But that's not weakness. That's having a good relationship with his father. That's being smart enough to know when he needs help. Why are you telling me this? Because Natalie won't admit she was wrong. She broke off the wedding, moved back home, and she's been miserable ever since. But she won't call Trevor because she's too proud. And I thought maybe you should know that she made a mistake. What do you want me to do about it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If Trevor wants to try to get her back, that's his choice. But personally, I hope he doesn't. I think he deserves someone who appreciates him, including his relationship with his father. Thank you for calling, Mrs. Reeves. You're welcome. And Mr. Hartwell? You did a good job raising your son. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, processing what had just happened. Linda appeared in the doorway. Who was that? Natalie's mother. She called to tell me her daughter's an idiot. Really? Really. Well, Linda smiled. At least someone in that family has sense. I didn't tell Trevor about the call. It wasn't my place. But the next time he came over, he seemed better, more settled, like he'd accepted that the wedding was off and moved on. I've been thinking, he said. We were in the garage helping me organize the camping equipment that had been piled in one corner since last summer. About getting my own place, not the condo, something smaller, something I can actually afford without a co-signer. That's a good idea. I'll need help with the rental applications, though. If that's okay, I don't want to mess it up. Of course it's okay. That's what I'm here for. But I'll do the initial research myself. Find the places, compare prices, figure out what I can afford. I just need your help with the paperwork part. Deal. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, sorting through tents and sleeping bags. Then Trevor said, I'm sorry about Natalie. Why? You didn't do anything wrong. I let her convince me to push you away. I let her make me feel weak for needing help. That was wrong. You were trying to make her happy. Yeah, but at your expense. That's not okay. He paused. Her mother called me. Did she? She said Natalie made a mistake, that I should find someone who appreciates me better. She told me the same thing. Trevor looked at me. She called you? Earlier this week. Said her daughter was an idiot. Huh. He went back to sorting sleeping bags. That's actually kind of nice, in a weird way. It is. I'm not taking her back, Trevor said, even if she asks, which she probably won't. Good. You think it's good? I think you deserve someone who doesn't make you choose between having a relationship with them and having a relationship with your family. Trevor nodded slowly. Yeah, I do. We finished organizing the camping gear and moved on to the sporting equipment. It was good, this. Just being together, working on something, talking without tension. It felt normal, like we were finding our way back to each other. She was right. I raised my rates by 30% and didn't lose a single client. In fact, I gained 3 new ones that week, who said they'd been waiting for an opening and didn't care about the cost. I told you, Linda said smugly, you're insufferable when you're right. Then I must be insufferable quite often. I hired a 3rd assistant in April, this time someone younger who could handle the digital side of things I still wasn't comfortable with. Her name was Amy, she was 26, and she treated the bureaucratic maze of government systems like it was a puzzle game. This is actually fun, she said one day, working through a complicated permit application. Fun? Yeah. Like you have to find all these little clues in the documentation about what they actually want, even though they don't say it clearly. And then you have to present the information in exactly the right way. It's like solving a mystery. I've been doing this for 30 years and never once thought of it as fun. That's because you're good at it. It's only fun when it's challenging. She was probably right. But watching her attack these problems with enthusiasm reminded me why I'd started the business in the first place. To help people navigate systems that weren't designed to be navigable. To translate between bureaucracy and humanity. May brought wedding planning season. Kelsey and Marcus had set their date for September, which gave us 4 months to handle all the permits and logistics. But this time, Kelsey was involved in every step. We need 3 permits, right? She asked at our first planning meeting. Venue, catering, and music. 4. You also need a temporary occupancy permit if you're using an outdoor space. What's that? It certifies that the venue can safely hold the number of guests you're planning. Fire marshal has to inspect it. How long does that take? 2 weeks if you file correctly. 6 weeks if you make mistakes. Then we'd better file correctly. We spent 2 hours going through the requirements. Kelsey took notes, asked questions, wanted to understand every step. It was like teaching her to ride a bike years ago, my hand on the seat, ready to catch her if she wobbled, but letting her pedal on her own. "This is exhausting," she said when we finished. "Yes, it is." "How did you do this for both of us for so many years?" "Practice and care. I cared about you both, so I wanted to make sure things went smoothly. I never said thank you for that. Not properly. You're saying it now. Thank you, Dad, for everything you did that I didn't appreciate, for everything you taught me when I finally was ready to learn, for not giving up on me even when I was awful to you." "You weren't awful." "I was, but I'm trying to be better. I know, and I appreciate it." June brought a problem. One of my clients, a woman named Patricia Torres, was dealing with a property dispute that had escalated beyond paperwork. Her neighbor had filed a lawsuit claiming her fence was on his property, and now she needed legal help, not just administrative help. "I can't help with this," I told her. "This is lawyer territory." "I can't afford a lawyer. Do you know how much they charge?" "I do, but Patricia, this is out of my scope. If I give you advice on a legal matter, I could get in trouble." "What am I supposed to do?" I thought about it. "Give me a day. Let me see if I can find you options." I called 3 lawyers I knew from various permitting battles over the years. 2 of them said they'd be willing to do a consultation for free, and the third said he'd handle the case pro bono if it was as straightforward as I described. I called Patricia back. "I found you a lawyer. He'll handle it for free if you qualify based on income. Here's his number." She started crying on the phone. Thank you so much." I didn't do much. You did more than anyone else. You actually cared enough to help. After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about scope and limitations. I couldn't solve every problem, but I could connect people with resources. I could be a bridge between their needs and the systems that could address them. I added a new service to my website, resource navigation. For people who needed help but whose problems extended beyond paperwork, I'd connect them with the right professionals. No charge for the referral, just a service I provided because it was the right thing to do. Linda saw the update and smiled. "You're becoming a community resource." "I'm becoming what I should have been all along." "No, you were always this person. You just have a business card now." July brought heat and a new challenge. Trevor called, and his voice was tight. "Dad, I need help. It's about work." "What happened?" "They're promoting someone internally, and I'm one of the candidates. But part of the evaluation is a presentation to senior leadership about how I'd handle a major client crisis. And I'm terrified." "Why?" "Because public speaking isn't my strength. And because this is the kind of thing where Natalie would have said I should just figure it out myself, and I'm worried I'm being weak by asking you." "Trevor, stop. Asking for help with a presentation isn't weak. Executives hire speech coaches all the time. This is no different." "So you'll help me?" "I'll help you, but you're writing the content. I'll just help you with the delivery." We met that weekend at my house. Trevor had drafted his presentation, and it was good, clear, logical, well-structured. But his delivery was stiff, nervous. "You're reciting," I said. "You need to be having a conversation." "How do I do that?" "Stop memorizing. Start explaining. Pretend you're telling me about this client crisis over dinner. What would you say?" He tried it again, this time more naturally. Better, but still not quite there. "Look at me while you talk," I said. "Make eye contact. Let your hands move naturally. You're not performing. You're explaining something you understand to people who need to understand it too." We practiced for 2 hours. By the end, he was conversational, confident, natural. The content was his. The delivery was polished but authentic. "You think I can do this?" he asked. "I know you can do this. You're good at your job, Trevor. You just needed to believe it. The presentation was the following week. He called me afterward, breathless and excited. I got it. The promotion. They said my presentation was the best they'd heard. Congratulations. Dad, I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You wrote that presentation yourself. You understand the material. You're capable. You just needed a little coaching. Still, thank you. You're welcome. Now take your girlfriend out to celebrate. Emma. Her name is Emma. Take Emma out to celebrate. I will. And Dad, I'm bringing her to Sunday dinner this week. Officially, as my serious girlfriend. We'll be happy to have her. August brought preparations for Kelsey's wedding. Everything was on track. Permits filed and approved, venue confirmed, caterer hired. But Kelsey was stressed about details. What if it rains? She asked one evening at dinner. The venue has indoor space. We accounted for that. What if the caterer messes up the food? They have backup menu options. We discussed that. What if people don't show up? Then there's more food for the people who do. Kelsey, you've planned this well. Everything that can be anticipated has been anticipated. Now you just have to trust the planning. That's hard. I know. But it's part of being an adult. You do the work, you make the plans, and then you trust yourself. She nodded slowly. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't listening. She laughed. Fair enough. Marcus squeezed her hand. It's going to be perfect. Even if it rains? Especially if it rains, because then we'll have a story about how we got married in a thunderstorm and it was beautiful anyway. You're very romantic. I try. Watching them together, I felt that same sense of rightness I'd felt at their engagement party. They were solid. They were ready. And Kelsey had done the hard work of becoming someone who could handle the complications of life. The week before the wedding, Trevor came over with Emma. They'd been dating for 8 months now, and she'd become a regular at family dinners. She was easy to talk to, laughed at my bad jokes, and most importantly, she made Trevor happy. We have news, Trevor said at dinner. Everyone looked up. Linda's eyes were bright with anticipation. We're moving in together, Emma said. We found an apartment we both love, and we're signing the lease next week. That's wonderful, Linda said. Where is it? They described the place. 2 bedrooms, good location, affordable rent. It sounded perfect for them. We're going to need help with the rental application, Trevor said, looking at me. If you have time. Of course I have time. But I want to do most of it myself. I just need you to review it before we submit. Deal. After dinner, Emma pulled me aside while the others were cleaning up. Mr. Hartwell, can I talk to you for a minute? Dean, please. And of course, I wanted to thank you. For what? For raising Trevor to be the kind of man who isn't afraid to ask for help, who values family, who knows how to maintain relationships while still being independent. That's very kind. I mean it. My last boyfriend was so determined to prove he didn't need anyone that he pushed everyone away, including me. Trevor's not like that. He knows when to ask for support and when to handle things himself. That's a rare quality. He learned it the hard way. Maybe. But he learned it. And I'm grateful, because it means I get to be with someone who's actually emotionally mature. After they left, Linda came into the kitchen where I was finishing the dishes. Emma talked to you. She thanked me for raising Trevor well. That's nice. It is. And it's weird. A year ago, my kids were telling me I didn't understand modern life. Now Trevor's girlfriend is thanking me for how I raised him. That's because a year ago they didn't understand what you'd been doing for them. Now they do. Do you think we're past it? The anger and resentment and all of that? Linda was quiet for a moment. I think we're in a different place. Better place. But the past doesn't disappear just because the present is good. That's very philosophical. I'm a philosophical person. Among other things. She kissed my cheek. Among many other things.